good morning, and once again, thank you for joining with us here at Bridgewood Online. I'm Pastor Sean, and I believe that today is going to be a very special day, that God is wanting to speak to many people who are dealing with this subject, that Pastor Kurt is going to be talking about this morning, and that's the subject of depression. This is part 5 in our series on Elijah, entitled Out of the Ordinary. But let me just say this, that the Bible said that Elijah was an ordinary man who did extraordinary things. And so, just like you and I, Elijah went through just a range of emotions throughout his ministry. And so Pastor Kurt is dealing with this very sensitive subject today on depression. And so would you do this for me? Would you share this on your social media? Would you share this, whether it's on YouTube or you're catching this on Facebook right now? Share this, because we want to be an encouragement to everybody who is around us. And I know there are a lot of people who deal with depression. And so I truly believe that this today is going to be an encouragement. So once again, thank you for doing that. And so today, before we get in there, why don't you take a look at some things that are going on around here for you and your family. And as always, if you've missed something, you can go on bridgewoodchurch.com/info, where you can sign up for events, you can get information, and all of the things that are going on around here for you and your family.
Good morning, Bridgewood. How are you? Yeah, good?
Let me welcome, if you're here for the very first time, we already said hello to you, but let me do this. Let me welcome those that are watching online. Come on, Bridgewood, help me welcome those that may be watching for the very first time. It is great to have you. And man, we have been in 21 days of expectation. And I've been expecting a lot of things, but I didn't expect to come today without the air conditioner on. And my microphone is wired through my jacket, so if you're wondering, hey, just take that off, my microphone's all wired in through there. So we're just going to do it, and we're going to thank God for all that he's done for us. Aren't you glad, amen, for air conditioner and the guys that are on the roof? And I think if you clap loud enough, they'll be motivated to work faster a little bit. But, yeah, they're up there. Listen, if you're going to clap, don't do the golf clap, okay? Like, just go all the way. Like, be the only one that goes all the way. Everyone else will follow you. Thank you, Michael. Yeah. There you go. So we're in this series called Out of the Ordinary, and we've been looking at this man named Elijah in the Bible who was an ordinary guy, just like you and I, an ordinary person, yet he did extraordinary things. And we're looking at how God can use us, no matter who we are, no matter how ordinary we are, to do something extraordinary in our life. I don't know about you, but you get one chance to live this life. And I don't know what you're thinking. I know what you're thinking if you're here, that you want to make it count. You want to do something extraordinary. And we're thanking that God, no matter who you are, no matter what your background, your past, no matter what anyone says about you, God can use you to do something extraordinary. And church, we've got to believe that. Like, we've got to come to the place where we believe that the God that lives in us can work through us and can do extraordinary things. And so that's what we've been doing, and we've been kind of following the storyline of Elijah's life, and he has done some extraordinary things. If you've been with us, like this guy confronted the most evil king on the planet, and he went up to him and he said, "It's not going to rain until I say it's going to rain." Now, I've never tried that before, but if you've ever tried it before, it probably didn't work. Because, I mean, we're talking about someone that was able to control the power of the elements of the air, but he was doing it through the power of God because God had spoke to him and told him to go tell this king. And shortly after, God takes him to a brook and says, even though there's going to be a drought, I'm going to supernaturally supply a fresh brook of water for you to drink from. And not only that, but ravens are going to come, and they're going to rain down Big Mac and Whoppers on you when you get hungry. Wouldn't that be awesome? And then all of a sudden the brook dries up, right? And God moves them to another city and says, listen, there's going to be somebody there that you least expect. A widow lady, she's going to supply for you. She's running out of food. She's only got a little bit of flour, a little bit of oil left. But you go to her, I'm going to do something supernatural, and the oil multiplies, and the flour multiplies, and she's able to make food not only for them, but for him, and it just goes on and on and on. And then her son gets sick and dies, and Elijah, this had never been done before, everyone. Like, nobody had ever been raised from the dead. And Elijah said, man, let's just pray that this boy comes back to life. And he comes back to life. I mean, we're talking extraordinary things. At one point, if you read the rest of the story, Elijah races a horse and wins. Like, that's faster than you, Dallas. Yeah, definitely. And then we came to last week, right? The showdown of all showdowns. Like he's going to take on 850 prophets of Baal, and he's going to say, you build an altar, I'll build an altar, and whatever God answers by fire, that's the true God. These were false gods. These were people that were propagating a false God and a false religion, and they did everything, and they danced, and they worked as hard as they could, but nothing happened. And Elijah, man, he just brought the stakes to a whole nother level, said, fill it up with water. God answered. I mean, it consumed the altar. He strikes down all of those prophets so that God is lifted up and magnified. And that's where we left off, right? And then we get to today. So if you have your Bibles, 1 Kings chapter 19 is where we're at in the story. And I want to read this, and then I'm going to circle back around to it. So if you have a Bible, if you don't have a Bible, don't panic. It's going to be right here on the screen for you. And you can follow along with us. So it says this, now Ahab told Jezebel, Ahab is the evil king, Jezebel is his wife. Elijah had done and how he had killed the prophets with the sword. So Jezebel sends a message to Elijah, text message. May God deal with me, be it ever so severely, if by this time tomorrow I do not make your life like one of them. So she threatens to kill Elijah. And Elijah was afraid, and he ran for his life. When he came to Beersheba in Judah, he left his servant there while he himself went a day's journey into the wilderness. And he came to a broom bush, sat under it, watch this now, and prayed that he might die. He said, I've had enough, Lord. Have you ever come to the place in your life where you've had enough? Like you just said, I'm done. I've had enough. I'm at the bottom of the bottom. And he says, take my life. I'm no better than my ancestors. Then he lays down under the bush and he falls asleep. And all at once an angel comes and touches him, wakes him up, says, get up and eat. And he looked around, and there by his head was some baked bread on hot coals and a jar of water. And he ate and drank, and then he laid down again. And then the angel of the Lord came back a second time. Everybody say second time. The angel shows up, says, get up and eat. This journey is too much for you. So he got up and ate and drank. Strengthened by that food, he traveled 40 days and 40 nights to Mount Horeb, the mountain of God. And then this is how it ends. There he went into a cave and spent the night. What a picture of extraordinary and ordinary. What a picture from being on the highest of highs to the lowest of lows. And now he's in a cave, and I think there's probably no better picture that really demonstrates to us what depression, discouragement, mental illness feels like. A cave that is dark, a cave that is hopeless, a cave that he's isolated and all by himself, wondering where the God of the supernatural is in this moment. And he's all by himself in the darkness of life. Have you ever been there before? I want to talk to you today about when your life doesn't feel extraordinary. What do you do when your life doesn't feel extraordinary? You might do extraordinary things, and God might be using you in powerful ways, but there are going to be times in your life where you don't feel extraordinary. You don't even feel ordinary. You feel like, man, there's something wrong. What is wrong? What do you do when you don't feel extraordinary? And I want to pray. Father, I just pray right now. Lord, there's so many things that are going through my mind. My heart is racing. Lord, all this week you've been speaking to me. You've been downloading things. And God, I need your help right now. God, in just a short amount of time, I need to be able to clearly communicate to people today what you want to say. And so, God, I'm stepping out of the way. I'm asking for your Holy Spirit to speak through me to exactly where people are, to exactly what they need. To God, you will do something that only you can do right now in this moment. I ask it in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. So it's been a struggle for my wife and I the last couple of weeks because our cell phones are broke. Now, how many of you know your salvation's tested when your cell phone is broke? And it started with her, and then it's leaked over to me. And here's the deal. If you look at my phone, you'd never know it's broke because there's no scratches on it. The screen's not broke. The buttons all work. I mean, this thing looks as good. It's in my case. It looks as good as when I bought it brand new. The problem is it's broken, malfunctioning on the inside. And it's been this kind of progressive decline over the last couple of weeks. She came to me, and then all of a sudden it started happening with me. It's like you know when your phone, it used to like last 2 days, now it lasts 2 hours, and it's out of power. And my wife told me she's convinced someone's in a room that when your plan's coming to an end, they turn the power down so that your phone only lasts, so you have to go get another one. And so it's like running out of power, like really, really fast, and then both of us are having a problem sending and receiving text messages. So it's really weird. Like I'm getting text from her, and it comes on green on my screen and says, maybe Christy Demoff. I'm thinking, maybe Christy Demoff? What do you mean maybe Christy Demoff? And then I try to send, and I get it 2 days later. It goes through 2 days later. I get some people came up and they're like, hey, are you blowing me off? I like text you and I'm like, hey, I never got it. I get it 3 days later. And not only that, but like the connection. I don't know what's going on, but like I'm trying to get online, I'm trying to call, and I just can't get through. And you know what? That's kind of what depression and mental sickness does to us, right? It's kind of like that kind of decline where all of a sudden you find yourself losing your power and your strength quicker than you normally do, right? Like you find that you're on empty a lot, and you're wondering, man, am I ever going to get off empty? Am I ever going to find something to fill the tank up? And then you have a hard time receiving compliments and good things from other people. It's like they're saying it, but you're not receiving it. You're not getting it, and you're not seeing the good things that God is doing and all of the blessings that He's had in your life. And then if you've ever been there before, you've ever gone through this, you know as much as you want to try to reach out and make a connection, you just can't. Like you're just trying, but you can't, and you're trying to do everything you can, and it's just not working. This is where Elijah is. This is where we find him in the story. And I love that the Bible gives us the whole story. It's not the highlight reel of Elijah's life that made the cover of the Bible. It shows us the real him. The guy that did the extraordinary things, the guy that God was using to do extraordinary things, is now not feeling extraordinary. And we see it here. And he's going through depression and discouragement, and something's just not right on the inside. Like he's broke and he's trying to figure out what just happened and how did I get from here to there? I mean, where did I get from to end up here in a cave, isolated and all by myself? And you know what the struggle, if you've faced that before, you've had depression or discouragement, here's the deal. There's a stigma attached to it, isn't there? Like it's different than anything else, right? It's not different than physical illness, but there's a stigma that we treat it differently, that we kind of look at people that are depressed or discouraged or have mental illness, and we think, you know what? There's something different about them. Like there's this stigma that's there. Like people that are going through it, they don't want anybody to know about it, right? They don't want someone to know they're going to a doctor or a therapist or that they're taking medication, but someone that's physically sick, they don't have that stigma, right? They like come in, they're like, hey, I'm on this medication, and man, the doctor says my blood pressure isn't working, so he gave me this. No problem at all, right? And then people walk around, hey, I've had COVID. I got COVID right now. You know what? No big deal. You remember when you were a kid and you broke something? Like you showed up to class and you're like, look, sign my cast. And the struggle is that you look at people and on the outside they don't look broke. You never know. Like you can just scan the crowd like I'm doing right now and go, man, everybody looks great. Other than they're pouring sweat, they look good. But there can be something going on the inside, right? There could be this whole thing of man, what is going on with me, and I can't get myself out of it, and this is different than I've ever experienced before, and how did I get from here to there? And he's going through all this, and this stigma there makes it worse, right? Because who wants to come to church when we're celebrating victory and faith and celebrating all that God is doing, and you don't feel it, and you come in, and so you just want to hide, right? You're like, I don't fit here. Because I'm not experiencing what everyone else is experiencing. And Bridgewood, I want to say this to you. The stigma needs to stop at the door. This needs to be the safest place for people to be themselves. This needs to be the place, Bridgewood, where we live out the value that's on the wall out there that says we want to be real. That means we don't want to be fake, because fake is exhausting. It's tiring. It takes too much energy and work to be fake week after week after week. But there can't be this stigma that when someone comes in and they're not feeling well, and there are going to be times where there are things that happen to us that require us to go to a doctor and that require us to take medication, and there isn't nothing wrong with that. And thank God, because doctors are a gift from God, and God can use all kinds of things because every good and perfect gift comes down from Him, and it's used in our way to help us and to strengthen us. And so there can't be this feeling that I'm weaker if something's going on here, but physically, no big deal, right? Our illness doesn't have to be our identity. It doesn't need to be the thing that defines you. It doesn't need to be the thing that you just kind of get wrapped up in your life. And so many times we do, right? We get attached to it. It was doubting Thomas, right? Who attached doubt to Thomas? We've all doubted. But stuff gets attached to us, and we think, this is who I am. I'm not like everyone else, or my struggle is different. Listen, there are going to be times that we're going to struggle in lots of different areas and ways, and it doesn't make us weaker. And for a lot of ways, listen to me, Bridgewood, listen to me, those that are watching. Okay, the church has had shallow answers for this. They have not known how to address some of these things that we don't have all figured out, right? And so people just say, hey, just get a little more faith. Go to church more. Can I just say this to you? Can I say it loud? Can I say it clear? And I want you to hear it from me. If you're struggling mentally, if you're struggling with depression, discouragement, or mental sickness, okay, listen to me. It's not because you're not spiritual. It's not because you don't have enough faith. It's not because you haven't gone to church enough, right? And Elijah will prove that to us today. And not only Elijah, but Moses, Jeremiah, David, the Apostle Paul, all came to places in their life where they wanted to die, where they struggled on the inside. And so what do we do? So I just said, you know what? I don't think I need to tell you this, but you might be new. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a therapist. I'm not a counselor. I'm just a pastor, and an ordinary one at that. And so I'm not going to take time here to step into areas that I'm not qualified to talk about. I'm not stepping in here to try to diagnose why you're going through what you're going through or what you have or don't have. And so when I got to this text, I said, God, here's what I feel like you want to do in this experience. And I want to go through the text, and I want the text to diagnose us. How many of you know God does a better job diagnosing us than we do diagnosing us and others? And so I said, God, as we just look at this text and we just talk about a few things, I want you to read us as we're reading you. And I want you to meet people right where they're at. And I want things to be spoken to people and confirmed in people's life that they need to hear through you. And so that's what we're going to do. We're going to read it, but it's going to read us the same time we're reading it. Because how many of you know this thing's living and active? And it works in our lives. So look at what happens. He goes to Ahab, and Ahab tells Jezebel everything that just happened, how he had killed all the prophets with the sword. And I think it's a good place for us to think about when we go through our highs in life, we're going to go through lows. It's the ebb and flow of life, right? It's the way that life works. If you're on the mountaintop, eventually you're going to have to stop off the mountaintop and you're going to have to step into a valley. It happens to everybody. It happens in everybody's story. We all go through it. Here he goes to the highest of highs in his experience, and then the next thing you know, he's at the lowest of low. So Jezebel sends a message to him. Now I want you to get this. She sends a message to him. She's not there. She just sends a message. He gets the message. Jezebel's ticked off, and she's going to kill you. And Elijah's afraid, and he takes off for his life. How does a guy that just confronted 850 prophets of Baal face to face, that wanted to kill him as much as he wanted to kill them, be successful and then have a woman send him a text message that says, I'm going to kill you, and he takes off for his life. I want you to think about this, okay? When we're distressed, we're going to be depressed. When we're distressed, it can lead to being depressed. Let me tell you what I mean. This is a perceived threat. This isn't a real threat. I want you to understand that. This is a perceived threat. She just said, I want to kill you. She's not standing in front of him. She doesn't have a knife in front of her ready to gouge it into him. That would be a real threat. This is a perceived threat. And he's taking that perceived threat, which has now become a feeling, and when you and I have a feeling of fear, it will always lead to faulty thinking in our life. Have you ever had a perceived threat before that just drove you crazy? Like you've been in the dark at night and you think you see somebody, and it's a perceived threat, like there's nobody there, but you think you see someone, and all night long you're just focused on, I know there's something over there. I know there's something over there. We just lived through an entire year of perceived threats. Right, which then caused fear in people. That fear, that emotion becomes a feeling, and that feeling is what drives a lot of people. Now, we all have feelings, we're all human, we all understand that, but this is why the Word of God always counteracts the natural with the way that God designed us. Which is, he doesn't want us to be controlled by our feelings. He wants us to be controlled by faith. But if we all understand, we've all been controlled by our feelings before. And this threat is there. And I just couldn't get this. Like, I was struggling, and I was praying. I'm like, God, there's got to be something here. You got to show me. How did this happen? Like, how did he get here? And I felt like the Lord just kind of opened up a window. I'm just sharing it with you. You may believe it. You may not believe it. You may see it in the text or not. This is my opinion. And he just kind of showed me. Here's what Jezebel did, and she did really well. She controlled Ahab. This was a puppet king. This was a king that didn't call the shots. She called the shots. She was used to the one being in control. Here's the problem with Elijah. Jezebel couldn't control Elijah. And the threat intensified. And it was like God just kind of spoke to my heart. The enemy, when you're a follower of Jesus, when you do it God's way and the enemy can't control you, how many of you know he gets real mad and upset and he intensifies his threats against us? So there are times in your life where you're like, why did it happen to Elijah? Why did he get to this point? And here she is. She knows she can't control him. And when the enemy can't control you, he's just going to release a barrage of threats against you so that you'll cave into your feelings, and your feelings will cause faulty thinking. Like, he's not even thinking logical. Notice what he says. He's afraid that Jezebel is going to kill him, so then what does he do? He goes to God and he says, okay, God, then you kill me. Okay, that doesn't even make sense. Like, you're afraid to die because she's going to kill you, but then you go to God and go, okay, God, well, then you kill me. Like he's not even logical in his mind and his thinking. And that's what happens when our feelings are there. And there's one thing I know about a feeling is the feelings change. Like, if you don't like your feeling, just wait an hour. It'll change. And they come and go, but feelings are deceptive and they can't be trusted. And so he's leaning on something that can't be trusted, that is deceptive, that the enemy will try to use in our life to intensify the attacks, to shoot the fiery darts at our minds, at our lives, to try to get us paralyzed, to try to get us off course, to try to get us to the place that Elijah is in. So it's not that you're not spiritual, it's because you're strategic. It's because many times the enemy can't control you, and he wants to so bad. So he's going to try to mess with your mind. And so it says, when he came to Beersheba in Judah, he left his servant there, and he himself went a day's journey into the wilderness. Here's what we got to be careful of, okay? Depression will always try to detach you, always. It will always try to detach you. Here he is, and he's got his servant with him. He leaves his servant there, and he goes on an entire day's journey. Here's what depression always wants to do. It wants to isolate us. It wants to detach us. And you say, what? Well, there's a lot of things in life that want to do that. No. This is strategic, okay? Because the solution to depression and to a lot of times the times that we're struggling is people. That's how God, he wants to bring us into community because that's how we were designed to function. We weren't designed to do it by ourselves. God brings 3 different people into Elijah's life here. He brings the servant, but he pushes the servant away. The angel shows up, so he sends an angel, you'll see in just a minute, and then God himself showed up. And so the thing that we push away most of the time, which is people when we're feeling like this, is actually the solution that God is sending to us to help us out of the place that we're in. That we're there in that moment and we're thinking to ourselves, I can't go into that cave by myself. Listen, if you go into the cave to talk about you, about all things you, that's a bad conversation for you. You know what I'm saying? Just being in that place where you're all by yourself and you don't have somebody else to say, no, that's deceptive. No, that's not the truth. No, that's not what's going on here. You have no counterbalance to what is wanting to control. And I believe his servant could have helped him. The angel helped him. God himself shows up and helps him. And so many times, listen, what you just saw a minute ago is not just something that we just think is cool or it's just fun to do. Life groups is God's design to bring you into community, to bring you out of the cave into community, to say, listen, if I'm isolated, if I'm all by myself, if I'm trying to fight my battle in the cave, that's not the place to fight your battle, but to get into community, to surround yourself with relationships that can encourage you and help you and strengthen you and that can pick you up when you fall down and do it, then we're pushing away the very solution that God is sending us. And so life groups, please, don't look at it as, that's just another thing to do, right? This ain't the bowling group. Well, I think there is a bowling group. Sorry, bowling group, I didn't mean that. But this isn't just another group. This is community, the way that God wanted community to function. And he brings them there. So watch this. So he comes to the broom bush, sits down under it, and he says to himself, I just want to die. I've had enough, Lord. Take my life. There's a suicide deception that's in this world today. And it's been released and it's been intensified. I've done 7 funerals this year, and 6 of them have been suicide, all under the age of 30 years old. Never, ever in 35 years of doing this have I had that many in a short amount of time. And here's the deal. Suicide is contagious, right? When Marilyn Monroe, when Kurt Cobain, when Robin Williams, when they all killed themselves, do you know that suicide went up 15 to 20% in our country? Because everybody thought, you know what, if they thought that was the answer and the solution, well, then that must be my answer or my solution too. And so it just kind of, it gets filled into, we went through just a year ago a rash of lead pastors in our country, real successful ones that have taken their life, and then there was another one and another one and another one, and it just rocked the church world because it wasn't just happening outside the walls, it was happening inside the walls. And it was like, how did that happen? How did you get from here to there? And right there in those moments, and here's what I want to say to you, and I want to make sure you hear it, and I pray that if you're in this place that God's going to speak to you right now, but you don't need to die to be free from your pain. You do not need to die to be free from your pain. Listen, if you talk to people that have wanted to take their life, they don't really want to die. They just want the pain to go away. But when the pain doesn't go away, they don't know what else to do. And so they think that by dying, that is going to solve their problems. And here's what suicide is. It's a permanent solution to a temporary problem. It's something irreversible. You can't go back and undo it at that point. And we're living right now in a moment where people are trying everything they can to just get the pain to stop. and medicate yourself and try this and do this and that. And if you can't get the pain to stop, well, then there's no other option. I'm here to tell you today, you do not need to die to be free from your pain. I know someone that died to set us free from our pain. I know somebody that took it all so that we could have the freedom that Christ wants to have in our life. You do not need to die. Those 6 funerals, they bothered me so bad, I just began to pray different. I began to pray Psalm 118 over them. Psalm 118 and verse 17, it declares this, that I will not die, but I will live, and I will proclaim what the Lord has done. I declare that over Bridgewood Church. I declare that over this community. I declare that over our nation. You do not need to die, but you can live and proclaim all that God has done. But there's this thing of, it's the only way that I'm going to get out of my pain. So watch this. The angel comes, shows up and says, get up and eat. He doesn't come and tell him to get to church or read his Bible or turn on some worship music. The first thing he does is he addresses his physical needs before he even addresses his spiritual needs. I know doctors will tell you this, and I'm not a doctor, but they'll tell you this. I think we'd be amazed at what would go away in our life if we just got 8 hours of sleep and ate healthy. You'd be amazed. Doctor shaking his head back there, right? Am I right? I'm going to come back to this, but I want to show you 2 more, okay? I'm going to come back to this in a minute because there's something really powerful here I want to end with. But watch this. The angel of the Lord came back a second time, get up and eat. And so he comes back and he eats, and we're going to see that there. And the thing that I want to share with you is that Sabbath brings spiritual balance to our lives. There's something that is happening in our culture and in our country that is directly in violation to the way that God designed us and he set this thing up. And that is, we're breaking Sabbath in our life. We're breaking the rule of God, the law of God, the way that he designed us, and we're wondering why we're facing the consequences that we're facing. And man, we're burning ourselves out at an alarming rate. And it's happening because we think we got to keep up with this one and we got to keep up with that one and our kids got to be here if those kids are doing it and all this stuff. And we're driving ourselves to the very thing that's killing us. And God said, I worked 6 days and on the 7th day I rested. We'll come back to that. But I want to go forward. Look at the next verse. Go 2 more. Go another one. And the word of the Lord came to him. What are you doing here, Elijah? He replied. And Elijah then goes on this rant, right? Like, I'm the only one. They've torn your covenant down, your altars. You put your prophets to death with a sword. I'm the only one left. And now they're trying to kill me too. The Lord said, go out and stand by the mountain in the presence of the Lord, for the Lord's about to pass by. Then this great and powerful wind tore the mountains apart, shattered the rocks, but the Lord was not in the wind. After the wind, there was an earthquake, but the Lord wasn't in the earthquake. And after the earthquake came a fire. Did you get it? Earth, wind, and fire, all right? That was originated by God. But the Lord was not in the fire. And after the fire came a gentle whisper. They were looking, and Elijah was looking, maybe anticipating that God was going to be in the dynamic, and God shows up in the intimate. Listen, the greatest prescription many times to the struggles that we have inside and mentally is the presence of God. And isn't it interesting that God tells him, you got to get out of the cave. The word of the Lord spoke to him, get out of the cave. Step out of the cave. I'm gonna pass by. My presence is gonna come by. Because his presence can do stuff that nothing else can do. Right? We either believe that or we don't. And he said, get out there because I'm about to pass by. And when my presence passed by, I'm going to show you something because I'm not in the dynamic. I'm not in the extraordinary. A lot of times I'm not in the place that you think I am. I'm right there in the whisper. And listen, if God's whispering to you, that means he's really close. Because you can't hear a whisper unless you're close. And people come to me all the time and they say, listen, where is God in the darkness? Where is God in my depression? Where is God when I'm going through a tough time? And I tell them, he's right there. He's in the whisper. He's right there with you. He hasn't left you. He's right there with you. He was right there in the cave with Elijah. He'll be there with us. But he says, I'm not going to keep you here. You're going to have to move out. You're going to have to do everything you can. Sometimes you need someone to pick you up and help you. But I need you to get into my presence, because my presence can change things that nothing else can. And so he pulled his cloak over his face and his mouth of the cave, and he gets out there. Notice what he says. Tries everything he can, but then he said, the Lord said to him, go back the way you came and go through the desert of Damascus. Here's what he told him. He said, go back to Beersheba. If you know what Beersheba was, it was the place where he made the oath. It was the place where he made the commitment to God. And it's interesting that God says, go back to the place that you started. Go back to your commitment. Go back to your oath. And here's the deal. There's something really powerful about a mission that's bigger than us. Able to lift us out of things in our hearts that we can't figure out, in our minds. Many times, okay, here's what the enemy wants us to do. He wants us just to get focused on ourselves, right? Elijah's, hey, I've done this, and these people are after me, and this and that. And man, he's self-focused in that. And God says, no, go back to where you started. Get back in the mission. Get back in the very thing that you committed to. Get back to the place. And listen, there is something healing, there is something powerful that happens when we have something in our life that's bigger than us, that gives us a reason to get up, that gives us a reason to trust in God, that gives us a reason to think of someone else besides ourselves. And it's amazing what happens when we live that way and when we allow God to do that through us. So it's not just serve because we need some help. It's serve because that's your mission. That's your purpose. That's what God designed you to do. And when you're doing what God designed you to do, yeah, there's going to be times you don't feel ordinary. There's going to be times you don't feel extraordinary. But that doesn't mean God isn't with you. That doesn't mean he's not using you. He used Elijah. And he was with them. And he'll lift you out of things that you could never lift yourself out of. Because he's that good and he's that powerful. So watch this. I got caught up on that phrase, get up and eat. It's my favorite verse in the Bible. And the Lord said it twice, so it's like a 2, it's times 2. I just got caught there. Like God just he just started downloading. He said, I want you to tell the people to get up and eat. And I'm like, Lord, okay. Am I supposed to make them breakfast? I'll make you all breakfast. If you're hungry, I'll feed you. That's natural for me to do. What are you talking about, Lord? And it just kept going over and over again. Get up, get up. I began to look around the places where people were stuck, whether it was in the Gospels where Jesus showed up and he told people, get up, take your mat, get up. And now he's telling someone that can't walk to get up, right? And you're thinking, wow, is that really compassionate, Jesus? Like, I'm sure if the guy could get up, he'd get up. No, he was saying something that happens mentally before it happens physically. He's saying something to them about get up. Get up is going to mean something different to all of us today. Get up for some of you is going to mean you've been trying to do life on your own and you need to come to Jesus and realize you can't do this on your own. There's too much in this journey. The angel said, get up and eat because this journey's too much for you. You can't do this on your own. Get up for some of you is getting up and coming out of the isolation and the darkness and taking a step into community and making yourself real and honest and coming in and saying, I need some help. I need some people. I don't need someone to show up today. I need somebody to show up in my life and help me. Not to put a shout out, hey, you're going to be okay. Just pray a little bit. I need someone to show up today. Get up for some of you is going to mean getting up and realizing that it's not because you're not spiritual. It's not because you don't have faith. Man, the enemy is trying everything he can to get you off mission and to prevent you from doing what you were designed to do because you're strategic. I really believe that. I believe that the enemy is going to hit hard the high targets. And that may be the very reason why you're going through what you're going through. Do you understand? Jesus was tempted to take his life. Oh, where did you get that from? He was tempted in all ways. Right? He was 40 days in the desert. And man, when he could have not even been in his right mind, but he was Jesus and God was there. But for us, if we went 40 days and 40 nights, like I'd have been out of my mind. I wouldn't have been thinking logically. And what did the enemy do? The enemy showed up and said, throw yourself off the temple. The angels will catch you. That was a real temptation. He was tempted to end his life. What if Jesus would have thought, oh, okay, I'm just going to jump off the temple and see if the angels will do it. He knows what we're going through. He knows what's going on in our mind when we're in those places. Don't think for 1 minute he doesn't understand. He understands. He says, get up. And when he wakes up, he sees bread and a jar of water over there. Now, I can't confirm this yet, but I'm pretty sure if I study the Hebrew enough, there was butter right there with the bread. All right? You can't eat bread by yourself. You got to have butter. And there's some water. And he gets up twice, and he eats the bread. And it strengthens him. I've missed this, and I'm really upset. I was so upset, I'm going to write Mel Gibson and say, you forgot this in the movie. Do you know that when Jesus was in the darkest time of his life in the Garden of Gethsemane, that an angel also showed up to him? It's not in the movie, and it's not in 3 of the Gospels. It's in Luke's Gospel because Luke's a detailed guy, and Luke caught all the details. Luke said, when Jesus said, Father, not my will, but your will be done, an angel came, Luke chapter 22, look it up, and strengthened him. Supernatural came and strengthened Jesus in that moment. I don't know if he brought him bread. I don't know if he gave him something to eat. Whatever he did strengthened him. Just like Elijah, it strengthened him. And he ate that bread, and it strengthened him. And I said, okay, God, we're going to eat the bread. And then it was like God just showed up. He connected it for me. He said, this bread that Elijah ate, it was physical bread, and it helped his physical needs. He said, I'm here now. I'm the bread of life. And when I show up and you taste me, you're gonna taste something that's gonna help you physically, emotionally, spiritually, because I'm the bread of life. And I want you to eat me, and I want you to partake of me, and I want you to get me inside of you because it's gonna help you physically, body, soul, spirit, the way that you're designed, and get up and eat. Church, we get to get up and eat something today that's not just gonna help us physically. It's going to go right to the very place that we need our soul and our spirit and our mind, and he can do something powerful and healing and supernatural in these moments that only he can. So here's the choice, okay? We're all sitting down, and here's what we're going to do, okay? In just a moment, we're going to get up. And there are 4 stations. They're in the back. We're packed in here, all right? 4 stations. Gluten-free at all stations. So if that's you, don't worry. We thought of you. And we're going to get up. And I want this to be more than a physical act of moving. I want this to be a commitment that you're making in your heart. You're saying, God, I hear you today. God, you sent your word to me, and you're telling me, I know it's dark, I know it's painful, I know you're feeling things that are real to you. You're not crazy. I know that this is going on in your mind, but you got to take a step. You got to get up. And when you get up, as hard as it is, if you need someone to help you, look over at someone and say, man, I'm having a hard time. Would you help me? But we're going to get up, and we're going to come. And I asked our team, I said, I don't want those little like wafer crackers that we have, whatever those things are. I'm like, I want big chunks of bread. And so they got some big chunks of bread. And I wanted to not only physically fill us, spiritually fill us. Because he's the bread of life. And we're going to say, God, as we partake of this, I need you. I need your presence inside of me. I need to be committed to the mission. I need to go back to the place where I made that commitment to you. I need you, God, to show up. I need you to bring someone into my life that's going to help me through this. And listen, I believe God's going to do it. All right, you ready? You ready to get up? As Keegan begins to sing, I want you to make your way to one of those four, and I'm going to lead us together, okay? Here we go. You ready? Let's get up.
Thank you, Pastor Kurt, for that word today. And so, church, I hope you're encouraged. I hope you're encouraged that even though Elijah was a man of God, he was still ordinary. And he did extraordinary things because God was with him. And so no matter where you're at today, and I hope that you heard Pastor Kurt today, that even that through depression, that God is right there with you, that he is right by your side. And so if you need somebody to talk to, if you need somebody who that can come alongside of you in this journey and pray with you, we want to be there with you. And so there are multiple ways on the screen right now that you can get in contact with us. And our hope and our desire is that you would allow us to come alongside of you in this journey of faith, that you would allow us to come alongside of you in your struggle and pray with you and walk this journey out with you. And so would you do that today? And so let me just say thank you for joining with us again. Let me say thank you for allowing us into your world, into your sphere of influence. And so each and every week, you can find us right back here for Bridgewood Online. And until next week, we love you and we are praying for you this week.